First of all, in Windows 2003, in your services, you should have the Volume Shadow Copy service enabled by default. So we'll scroll down the list to the V's, and there is Volume Shadow Copy. So it is there. It's at least manual, which means we can start it if we want to, but it is there as a service. To enable Volume Shadow Copies, you can go to your computer management and shares, or you can just open up My Computer. And then per drive, you can right-click the drive and choose Properties. And you'll have a Shadow Copies tab. So C drive, D drive, etc. Every drive will have a Shadow Copies tab. So Shadow Copy can be enabled or disabled per volume or partition. Let's take a look at the C drive here. And I've got a shared folder set up here called VSS Test, which currently has nothing in it. Now on local disk C, looking at the properties, we have the Shadow Copies tab. We could go ahead and enable Volume Shadow Copy service on partition C here. Now, Volume Shadow Copy only looks at information in shared folders. And to access previous versions or previous snapshots, you must access the information as a shared folder. So it's all about the shares. And what we're going to do here is a little test. We're going to put some data into the VSS test folder. And I've got some bitmaps here to copy over. There we go. So someone accessing the shared folder for VSS test would see the bitmaps then. So let's take a look at the Volume Shadow Copy tab then. And go ahead and enable this. Now before we enable, there's a few settings to take a look at first. Just click on Settings. And we can select where we would like to place the snapshot data. Now the default is the same drive as the drive that you're enabling Volume Shadow Copy on. But you can certainly select a different drive available in the machine. Details, you can get a little more detailed information, which right now we don't even have it enabled, so there's not much here to look at. You can also specify a maximum size to your Shadow Copy data, to your Shadow Copy store. In addition, you can set up a schedule, and the schedule by default is 7 a.m. and noon every day. There's two schedules. One is every day of the week at 7 a.m., the other is every day of the week at noon. So you can certainly alter the schedules to your own environment. Okay, so let's go ahead and enable Volume Shadow Copy on the C drive here. It's just saying it's going to use the default schedule, create a shadow copy now, etc. Now this process will take a little while to make the first snapshot, so the hourglass would sit here for a while. Okay, and the system has created the first Volume Shadow Copy. So let's go ahead and play around a little bit. So we've created a Volume Shadow Copy. So the system has taken a look at the VSS test share here and made a shadow copy of this information. So if we access this folder as a share, then we'll see all the information in here as if we were accessing as a shared folder. Now for each of these bitmaps then, we can right-click and choose Properties, and we'll have a Previous Versions tab telling us about all the previous versions. Well, we've only had one snapshot created, so we don't yet have any previous versions to roll back to. In addition, the folder itself will have a Previous Versions tab. So click the up arrow there. There's the VSS test folder. Look at the properties of that, and it will have a Previous Versions tab. So, if you do not see a Previous Versions tab, it means you need to install the Previous Versions client, twcli32.msi, which you can deploy through group policy, by the way. This is a new feature of 2003, so the Previous Versions client is only available in 2003 natively. So you'll have to install that separately on any non-2003 computer. Well, let's play around a little bit. Let's go ahead and create a second snapshot of the VSS test folder. Okay, so just to have some fun, we've got a couple snapshots to play with. And let's go ahead and access the VSS test folder as a share. So here's the shared folder, and I'm going to go ahead and delete all of the items in the shared folder. Now, normally, if a user has the ability to delete items out of a shared folder, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, there's no recycle bin. It just disappears. So the only way to get this information back normally is to get it back from a backup tape. Well, with volume shadow copy, we can go to the previous versions tab of the folder, and we can access a previous version of the shared folder. So we'll go back to the snapshot we just created and restore the previous version. So it gives you a warning message. Are you sure you want to do this? Sure. There we go. So it says it's been restored, but let's check out what's really happened here. All of our information is back. So this can be a great utility to save time in restoring information. It's also a good versioning tool. So if you make changes to your files over time, if you were to edit the bitmaps, or if you had text files, you edit the text files. If you make changes, so I'm defacing our demand dial interface wizard here. And so we'll save the graffiti I just made on our demand dial interface wizard. Go ahead and close that out. So our destination address bitmap now, if we open that up, it's defaced. So if we want to roll back to a previous version, no problem. Go to the properties of that particular file, previous versions tab, and we can roll back to a previous version. There we go. And now there's no defacement of the bitmap, so to speak. So we've rolled back to the previous version. Finally, one last thing with the volume shadow copy information, which we can't do now, is you can actually make a copy of a previous version. So let's say we had a new version, the defaced version, and for whatever reason, let's say we wanted to keep that, and we also wanted to keep the previous version. So now there's two versions you would like to keep, but we can't have two identical file names, so you can choose the version you want and then choose copy, and simply copy it as a different file name. That way you have both versions to play around with.